Jadeveon Clowney turning down around $17 million a year. It all started with Aaron Wilson from the Houston Chronicle basically tweeting out that the Dolphins discussed a $17 million annual average deal at one point in the process with Seahawks free agent Jadeveon Clowney, per sources. Didn't accept, so Dolphins moved on with Shaq Lawson. Clowney aiming for $20 million average, but could wind up signing for less on a shorter deal. This was at 4:51 on the 23rd. Literally 10 minutes later, Barry Jackson. Involved party tells me there was no Dolphins offer for Clowney. Ogba Lawson gave him two quality DEs who are both skilled as rushers and against the run for combined less money than what Clowney is seeking per year. To be clear, Dolphins like Clowney and would have been open to something with him, but not at $17 million annually. Not going to make offer to someone who clearly wants substantially more. And that was from Barry Jackson following up on his last tweet. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because a few things I'll throw out to you, EM. Shaq Lawson was second among edge defenders with 10 tackles for losses last year, and his 8.4% run stop rate was seventh. And then when you go into a comparison, Jadeveon Clowney started 11 games in 2019, recording 31 tackles, 7 of those tackled for losses and 3 sacks, right? And Clowney had 13 QB hits to that. Shaq Lawson started 0 games because, as you know, he wasn't technically a starter in 2019, recorded 32 tackles, 13 of those tackled for losses, 6.5 sacks, and he had 18 quarterback hits compared to Jadeveon Clowney's 13. So my whole reason for throwing that out there, does that make what Barry Jackson is saying more believable about Ogba and Shaq Lawson being the targets because of what they command annually is basically the equivalent to what Jadeveon Clowney wants just for himself?
Oh, absolutely. I'm more inclined to believe that article. Actually, I think Clowney, I've been on, we were on previous streams, and I've been, once the free agency process began, I was one of the ones that was banging on the table for Jadeveon Clowney.
Sure.
And let me be clear. I love Clowney as a player. However, at 17 to 20 million, for a player that has, consistent durability issues ever since he came into the league, absolutely. I could definitely see Chris Greer and Brian Flores going in a different direction. And also, you mentioned the metrics with Shaq Lawson at how well he graded out in terms of the run game, and also the productivity he's giving you in the passing, as far as pressure the quarterback. So I think Ogba and Shaq Lawson are excellent consolation prizes for less than what you would have had to invest in Jadeveon Clowney. So I love that move. And I actually think Ogba is going to be I can foresee two years from now, Ogba being a diamond in the rough that we signed. And, again, I've stated this before, I think we are just scratching the surface with this kid's his potential. Shaq Lawson as well. I'm a Shaq Lawson fan as well. But I think Ogba is so much more athletic than what he can give you, what Shaq Lawson gives you from a run grade standpoint. But I think he's just a better athlete of the two. He's more dynamic. He's got a little more dynamic to his game.
And I think Jadeveon Clowney is out there right now asking that money with what's going on right now, and the fact that doctors can't get in there and check in on, let alone his core muscle injury that he played through last year. But he's got a bunch of red flag injuries that no doctor can get in there. No team doctor can get in there right now and poke and prod. And when you're asking for 17 to 20 million a year, that type of investment at that position, they're going to want to poke and prod you when you have durability issues.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why I honestly see him settling. I see him settling for under 15 for 1 year. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to the Seahawks for like 12 or 13 million for 1 year. And then, you know what I mean? I think wherever he goes, it's going to be 1 year. It makes sense. But, I mean, if Clowney wants 12 to 20 million and is out of the picture, and they were, in fact, sniffing around, because even Barry Jackson said, when he went further into detail, and he talked about how they would, just not at that price tag. Does that make the Chris Jones deal a little bit more of a feasible option due to his franchise tag being near equal to what Clowney was asking for, or what their rumored offer was, or are we done big spending?
I'm hoping and praying it is. To be honest with you, I'm hoping that this Chris Jones situation actually comes to fruition. I'm hoping. We've talked about this at length. Mm-hmm. We already have on paper, we have a B minus to B plus overall rated defense based on the personnel that we have acquired, in addition to the players that we already had on our roster. Mm-hmm. If you go and you add a player of Chris Jones's stature, immediately this defense goes from, I would say, top 15.
I was potentially top 15 to now you're 100.
You're in the top 5.
Yeah, you're potentially top 3. 5. You're potentially top 3. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm hoping they can find a way. And again,
can I be honest with you, Ian? Because I haven't been able to say this on the platform, on any other platform first. Bro, if we get Chris Jones and we have and everyone, because I imagine all the big pieces would be, other than Ogba, who, if he pops off in 2 years, could demand quite a pretty penny, but let's play it by ear right now. Mm-hmm. Dude, you for 4 or 5 years, all you'd have to do is get the offensive side of the ball right. All you'd have to do is if you supply an overly competent, not a competent, but an overly competent, like a good, not even a great offense, you're probably consistently competing for the AFC Championship and at least a divisional round.
Absolutely.
And if we get a great quarterback back there, then you have a potential Super Bowl contender.
Team. Yeah, that's a Super Bowl team.
The Absolutely. Defense alone, man.
And again, also within reason, keep, no pun intended, within reason, keep acquiring as many chips you can on the defensive side of the ball. And you just referenced our young quarterback that we could potentially be selecting at number 5. That's just going to help him in his transition whenever he does, whenever he actually does take over the reins in terms of starting. Mm-hmm. So build that defense as strong as you possibly can, because ultimately that's going to help the quarterback. You know what I mean? So, man, if they can make that happen, and again, now is the time to make splash, sound smart decisions like that, because you're in the ideal situation from a cap standpoint as well as draft capital standpoint. This is the time to make those moves. And so immediately we're coming in next year, and we're from the word go, we're at a position where we can really compete with anybody.
Yeah,
really, we can really legitimately compete with anybody, I think. So now's the time to make those moves, and I hope. And I'm sure they see that. We see that, and we realize that. They do. So I think there's legitimate smoke with this Chris Jones story. But I think as we get closer to the draft, you'll see a lot of potential trades like this. Generally, traditionally over the years, trades of this magnitude generally happen around in the offseason. They normally happen right around draft time, on draft day or just prior to it. So I'm hopefully this Chris Jones story picks up steam as we move closer to the draft.
And I mean, we went over this. Let's just go over quickly, real quick. We talked about it a little bit further in length yesterday, obviously, in that 5-hour stream. What's the maximum you would package? What's your maximum package for a guy like Chris Jones? Mine, I would go a second and a fourth and a roster player.
Ideally, yeah. I mean, I would be all over that. But I think a player of his stature, coming off a first-team All-Pro season, Pro Bowl season, Super Bowl champion season, I think he's going to command a minimum of first-round pick. And I personally think that, I think the 26th pick should get it done. Should be enough to get it done. Because I'm hearing, we mentioned that on previous streams before about we've been fielding a lot of calls for that 26th pick. Could that have been, and I've been hearing Kansas City was one of the rumored teams to be making an inquiry about that pick. Could that have been a possibly, Chris Jones included in that deal? Could have been, just saying. Who knows? But I think that 26, I think realistically, again, I would rather go your route because we're giving up less capital. But I think ideally, I think realistically, 26, it should be able to get that deal done. And if I'm the Dolphins,
even if we keep that,
I would rather wait.
Even if we were to keep that 26 pick involved, I'd still want to move off a roster player because, and we'll get into all the numbers in a minute, just because I want to free up that extra cap in terms of what I'm about to pay him. So, if it's going to be
think about this.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What player would you ideally rather?
I know he's had already been there once. I would dangle Albert Wilson, just because I know the speed and I know they could utilize him because Sammy Watkins is leaving. But at the same time, and this is where I think it would get tricky for me, because I want to see at least 1 year of the dynamic duo. I think a guy they would covet is Xavier Howard because of, they could really use that in their secondary. That goes without saying, right?
Yeah, I would hate to have to move away from Xavier Howard. However, if they're just asking for a second round pick and Xavier Howard, I'm gonna pull the trigger on that deal.
What if they want the 26 in Xavier?
Well, they would have to be more included in the package. They have to be a lineman, or I'm not giving them a first round pick in addition to Xavier Howard. No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
they would have to include it. They would have to include another player, so like a lineman or that'll be additional cap we could potentially take on. That would give them relief as well. So,
for sure.
So yeah, they would if they want the 26th pick and Xavier Howard, they're gonna have to give me one of their linemen.
Yeah. No, I agree. So let's segue then. That's the perfect segue. Our current cap situation, EM. So right now, when you go into that confidential cap space that players have access to, apparently the number right now for us is $40.6 million in cap space. But then obviously we got the draft capital that we gotta basically put some money to the side for, and where we're drafting and the amount of picks we have, it's going to be around $18 million that we got to set aside for the players that we draft, leaving us with about $22.6 million. And we know Albert Wilson, if we were to cut him, frees up about $9 million. And that's where I was going with that. Like if we can move off Albert Wilson, I think the contract in total is about 10, but you save about just under 9. So, that's a 31. All of a sudden, our cap would go up to 31 million, 31.6. And then you take the 16, 17 million it's going to cost Chris Jones probably. And we still got just under 20 million. We got about 15, 16 million moving forward. Whereas if you move a guy like Xavier Howard, he's making it just north of 15 million right now. So you're basically swapping capital for cap space for cap space, because you're going to end up paying just north of what you're paying Xavier Howard to Chris Jones. So, you won't notice much of a shift. But we got about 78 players right now under contract. We still got 14 draft picks, and usually a dozen or so undrafted rookies are added after the draft. So that puts more than a dozen players on the roster at risk in the next 2 months. The NFL offseason roster limit is 90, which we're currently 12 away from. So our draft picks alone, UDFAs aside, and undrafted, like that's, we're still over by 2 just with the 14 draft picks. So what do you see taking place here, with do you see some shaving of the roster? Do you see some moves? Do you think this makes it more feasible that draft capital could get moved because we don't have the roster space? Obviously, we know some of these guys are going to get allocated to the practice squad, but what do you foresee here? Because I mean, we know Flores loves his undrafted free agents, right? I mean, at one point, over 30% of our roster last year was undrafted free agents. So what do you foresee here, Ian?
Oh, I definitely see, several bus tickets being issued out here soon. I see that happening sooner rather than later, and they're going to start at the linebacker position / defensive end position. I think it's several players. They're just counting their it's just a matter of hours, before they, receive their pink slips.
Does this make you worry about a guy like Xavier Howard? Does this make you a little bit wonder more about him?
No, not Xavier Howard.
So who do you worry about? Charles Harris. I I can all agree it's about time he hits the brick.
Charles Harris, Taco Charlton.
Yeah.
I keep telling y'all. I know I mentioned this, on previous platforms before, but there's a lot of disagreement. I even personally think with the addition of all of these linebackers that we've added, during free agency, and all of them have strong ties to Brian Flores. Those are his guys.
Yeah.
And I look at players like Jerome Baker. Now I know, ball game. We've talked about this on, TD's platform at length. Ball game says, he's got a source that says Flores likes Jerome Baker. Okay, I get that.
Yeah, you read the. I'll just paraphrase for the listeners right now. Basically, someone to do a panel with named Mr. Ballgame got a text message, is privy to a text message, and it's a text message exchange between Brian Flores and Jerome Baker, and basically Baker said, "What's the plan?" And Flores basically said, "Whatever you want it to be. You have so much athleticism and tools that I can work with that we can make anything happen with you." I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically the generalization of it. Anyways, continue on, EM, because I do think you're right. I think Jerome should be looking over his shoulder big time, because also, EM, he's not a Flores draft pick.
He's not.
Flores got no connection to him.
He's not. And look at all the guys that in the linebacking core, the addition to the linebacking core that they brought in, all guys that he's familiar with, those guys that he was instrumental in drafting them or selecting them as in undrafted status while he was in New England. Scouting them. Those are all of his guys. So generally when coaches are transitioning to a different team, they select a job and they generally bring in guys that they are familiar with. Not only coaches, but players as well. And that's what I could easily see. Again, Gruber Hill, the linebacker from Philadelphia, we just picked up. He was drafted in New England while Flores was a linebackers coach there. So he had a hands-on evaluation of him pre-draft.
You know what you're seeing, Ian? You're seeing the opposite of what we usually we see. A new coach comes in and he's got to find his guy for the quarterback. But this guy's going out and finding his guy for the linebacking core, for the defensive, because you're seeing a defensive-minded coach come in and take over, and he's still going to find his guy in terms of quarterback, but you can tell he's already got his mind on his guys that he wants to put around, because the defense is his offense to an extent.
Absolutely, I agree. Right? I agree 100%. And so, like I said, I think Raekwon is the one that they're most high on.
Yeah, I agree.
Raekwon brings a high level of value to this defense. We've seen what the defense looked like when Raekwon is healthy and inserted into the starting lineup, and we've seen the significant drop off when he's out of that starting lineup and when he's not healthy. So Raekwon McMillan, I love Raekwon's physical profile. Translating to this defense, I love the level of physicality he brings on a snap-to-snap basis. Not to say that Jerome Baker, is not a all-in type of player, but he just has limitations in the run game, and they're glaring glaring limitations in the run game. And again, this is a defense that prioritizes choking out the opposing offense's run game. That's what they prioritize over anything. So if I'm Jerome Baker, I don't care what that text message said. If I'm Jerome Baker, bro, I'm looking over my shoulder. I am starting to get a little concerned.
I mean, one of my favorite things about the Raekwon McMillan pick was I thought it was going to help Baker reach his upside quicker because it's going to be next to his buddy that he played with in college. And it's kind of crazy because Raekwon, you continue to see the trend upwards, where sometimes I watch Jerome Baker and I'm like, is this guy peaked?
I agree.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of a scary thought to have at a guy in his mid-20s. You know what I mean? So let's move on a little bit here. The big news a couple nights ago, around at 10 o'clock, was Tua Tagovailoa. And the word was out there a few weeks ago that we tried to get him in before workouts were shut down due to COVID-19. Now he's throwing. He looked really impressive with how his hip was moving during his side shuffles. And when he dug in to cut or he stepped up to throw, looked beautiful. Working with his Elite 11 mentor, Trent Dilfer. Before we get into it, do you want to get into it or do you want me to ask the question? Let's get into okay, go ahead. Say what you got to say and I'll fire up the video.
I just want to say real quick, I think he looks phenomenal, especially considering just in November, what the magnitude of that injury. Oh man, I think he looked phenomenal. I mean, I see no favoring of the hip. I see fluid motion, short, his feet are fluid.
I mean, we were talking about
his delivery.
We like Joe Burrow is a good quarterback, but he only dreams of having to his feet fluidity. I know, right? And it's from right to left. It doesn't matter which side he shuffles to. It's so clean, and it's almost hypnotizing his footwork. That's what I'm saying. My problem is I've had to watch when I watch offensive snaps for Alabama. Like the thing is, I'll sit there and I don't just watch. Like I end up watching, a set of offensive snaps. Man, like on a drive, I'll end up watching the drive like in total 3 or 4 times because there are times where I just get caught watching his feet. Like it's crazy.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Wow. I thought I was the only one. I guess I'm not crazy after all, bro.
No, it's crazy, man. It's like
bro.
It's like it's poetry in motion, bro. Like and it's natural.
I know, right? And look at the transition when he's setting and he's transitioning into his throw. When he's set and he's transitioning into his throw from the release point, all the way through his release point and all the way through the throw, his motion, it is just like a thing of beauty. And people don't understand how important that is when you're evaluating a quarterback. The less movement that you make, the less
energy you basically want
wasted movement.
Yeah, you don't want wasted movement or wasted energy. You want it all to be brought up from your foot, through your legs, up through your waist, and then up through your hip, and then up to your upper body. And you want all the energy and all the motion to basically transferred basically as one, basically.
Absolutely.
No hitch, no glitch. So let's watch. We got 4 clips. 1 he uploaded, and then 3 I had to go upload myself. But
you see the effect it has on me, bro. It makes me lose my train of thought.
Well, the one thing I was really looking for, especially when he set to throw, I wanted to see if there's any stiffness, and I didn't see any stiffness at all. So it was good. But let's go through. We'll run through. They're about 10 seconds each. There's 4 of them. We'll run through them. Here's the first one. just perfect. Head upwards, always downfield. Feet so fluid in every motion, and just a perfect release. I mean,
kind of freezing. It's okay. There it is. Okay, there it is.
You see it right there?
Yeah, you're good. Look at that.
Oh.
Look at that.
One more time. Just watch. Everyone watch his head. Watch his head. Doesn't even move. Doesn't even shift.
All right.
Stays locked on where he's throwing. Again, you see, Dilfer tries to hit him with the pad.
Oh, man, it's like he's dancing. It's like he's dancing out there. Look at his feet.
And that was nothing. He just look at it. He doesn't even check it. That's instinct. He feels it, moves, gone. Here we go to I believe he goes to the right on this one. Oh no, he steps up. Boom. You don't get to see the end result. Head up, eyes up. Boom. Feet, look at the shuffle. Yeah. I would have loved to see where the throw landed, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I would have loved to see where that throw landed.
And again, once even as this is where he's at this stage. There's still improvement that needs to be done in terms of his rehabilitation. So as he gets further along, he'll get better. This is not the best Tua Tagovailoa that we know. So this is just a small sample size of where he's just showing the world, hey, the rehabilitation process is going better than we could have expected.
So what I wanted people to watch about this is I think this is the last one. So we've shown you all the other ones a couple other times. I want people to watch not only the footwork, we've shown multiple times so you can watch his upper work, his head. I want everyone to watch his feet, his head, and his body, and then think of the last ones you watch, because I'm going to say something after. And this is Trent Dilfer bent over in the back. He's watching it. So we'll go through this, and then I just got a thought I want to say. So he rolls to the right. Look, yep. One more time. Who?
His feet are. It's like he's, it's like he's walking on air. His feet are so light, bro.
It's hypnotic. Even when he did the half step up, and then he went back. I mean, and the one other thing I wanted to say about it, if you look at all these videos, what's the one thing you can say? He has a consistent, repeatable motion. There's nothing different about his footwork. It's just he's moving in different directions, or he's cutting and he's digging. And that's what he's showing when he stepped up with that cone. He's digging. He's digging forward, and then he's cutting back, and he's showing that my hip can still move and take that. I mean, it's not a game time situation, but he's showing that I can step up and dig and then come back and still go off to the left and make the throw. I would have loved to see where the throws ended up, but the one thing I take away from all this is there's no stiffness. His feet are as fluid as ever. And the one thing he has that even Jordan Love has it, but not to this extent, this man has a compact, front arms always tucked, repeatable motion. This is the stuff that translates. These mechanics, you can teach these to a certain extent. You know what I'm saying? It comes down to work ethic. How bad do you want it? How bad are you going to work on getting better? And you can tell that this kid, whether it's the film room or whatever, man, he has worked on his mechanics to the point where you can almost say he's mastered his mechanics. He's not there yet.
Exactly.
Things he can work on. Everyone can work on something. But this guy has the hands down best mechanics of this draft. It's disgusting.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And I gotta ask you this now that we know that the thought process is, that Tua is possibly gonna send out videos, full video sets of him doing multiple workouts. I'm sure they'll be from wider angles too. Are they gonna have to trade up to get him now? For sure.
I wouldn't necessarily say for sure, because of the limited amount of draft capital that the potential teams that could jump us. It'll be different if we had the Oakland Raiders sitting at 6. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Or the Jacksonville Jaguars sitting at 6 and they were entertaining trading up to get to it. We have, in my opinion, the most legitimate threat, obviously, is the Chargers, but they're limited in terms of their resources.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not. They would literally have to give up half their draft, literally. Okay, so
I think they have four picks. I think they have 4 picks before 115.
I just don't think they're in a position to do that. I just don't think the coach is secure enough to make that drastic of a move. I just don't think. They could very well maybe contemplating a trade up, but I'm not gonna go out on. I just can't go 100%, certain that they potentially could do that. But it's definitely a possibility. It's something that Miami needs to be concerned about, and they need to be taking this thing seriously.
See,
they really do. They need to be.
This is why, I really think the Chargers should be going and signing Cam Newton. I think this should be. That's where I think he should be going, because if they don't move up to get Tua, bro, they would be smart to sign Cam for 1 year and have Herbert sit behind Cam.
Now, if they do sign Cam Newton, which I think is a real possibility, I definitely don't think we need to trade up.
No, I think that's why I'm saying I think they should get Cam, because I think they understand they don't have, like we've talked about this before. Listen, if the Chargers hit up the Lions or the Redskins are going to make a phone call to us because we got more we can offer.
Absolutely.
So they're going to want to create a bidding war. They're not just going to jump at the first offer. That's what I'm saying. If this medical clears, you see those little clips, if you get a wide range of good looks like you saw from those clips in the film he sends out to everyone, and he continues to get medical reports, updated medical reports. I mean, there's no way they could outbid the Dolphins if they really want Tua. And that's why I think it makes way more sense for the Chargers to go get Cam, because we kind of control their destiny if they want Tua. The only way the Chargers are going to get Tua is if we don't want him, and we're not willing to pay an exorbitant amount, and the Chargers are willing to mortgage because I just said they got 4 picks before 115, I believe. It's going to take more than that. It's going to take a first from whatever first they got next year, you're going to have to package that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and that's what I'm saying. But here's my thing. I think they're in a position where they could win now because they got so many pieces with Cam, at least sniff the playoffs. And then next year they could go bring in their Herbert or their Jordan Love because they missed out on Tua to us. And it could be almost seamless if they coach those guys up properly, all said, right? So I think it just makes more sense for them, for a team like that who doesn't control their own destiny. That's why it doesn't make sense. I know Ball Game showed us the betting odds, and we're leading the betting odds in the Cam. And last week, on Sunday, what did we talk about, EM? We were leading the betting odds in Jameis Winston. How did that turn out? Okay? People are just seeing, you got a QB-needed team, without realizing we got Fitzpatrick. We don't need any of this. And we've got the capital where we can, other than Burrow, we could go get whoever we wanted. So
absolutely,
that's why we don't have to we don't have to go get a Cam. We don't have to go get a Jameis. And that's whereas a team like New England, if they don't believe in Stidham, they are more inclined to go get one of those guys. Where the Chargers, unless they're going to mortgage 2 or 3 years of draft picks, they're more inclined to get one of those guys. I truly believe that.
I agree, bro. I agree. Yeah, we just, again, my approach hasn't changed. I'm still, it depends on what Detroit is asking, but that I'm trying to drive that price down as much as possible. And again, I would even lean more towards calling everyone's bluff and just sitting pat and just waiting.
Okay. So, and but I will say this. If I get word that the Chargers are seriously putting together a package, I'm moving up.
I agree 100%.
Sorry, Los Angeles. And you know what else worries me? Besides the fact that obviously Tyrod Taylor's not the answer, EM? They need a name for that stadium.
Oh, yeah.
They need it, just like Las Vegas needs a name for when they go to Las Vegas, I truly believe, which is why I'm surprised they didn't want to meet Brady's demands. LA needs a name, some kind of star power to bring fans in because it's ridiculous out there. So
Marcus Mariota's not a big enough name, in your opinion?
yeah. Okay. Go there. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. Buddy, that guy owes whatever money he owes. Whatever money he's made, he owes that to Chip Kelly. Okay, that's all I got to say about Marcus Mariota.
I agree.
So, let's get on to the last topic here, yeah. Because we kind of covered Cam in that. I want your thoughts. So let me first read from Safid Dean of the Miami Herald. Despite not being able to meet with Tagovailoa last week due to the coronavirus, it just didn't work out. Miami was able to host Utah State quarterback Jordan Love and Ohio State running back J.K. Dobbins, who was training in Florida, for visits. So if J.K. we know the smoke has been mostly around J.K. Dobbins and Jonathan Taylor for the draft. I still don't think that's changed. I still think one of those guys is going to be picked at 26 or 39 because I don't think one of them will be there by 56. When you talk about Jordan Love, okay, so we know they tried to work it out with Tua. When I believe it was Ian Rappaport, he said that Tua was the first guy we tried to get in, but because of the COVID-19, it just didn't work out. So let's take Tua out of the scenario because we know he was the first guy that we tried to get in. Brother, we brought in Jordan Love before Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. Now, I know they want Joe Burrow, which kind of makes me even more confused because why wouldn't you be trying to get him in quicker than Jordan Love if you really are willing to trade all these picks up for him? Nonetheless, Justin Herbert. There's been so much smoke about Justin Herbert. And, we go back to this TD's little source up there in Dolphin land. They've talked about Jordan Love behind Tua. My thing is here, does this show a signal to you, Ian, that possibly Jordan Love is the contingency plan if they don't get Tua, and the smoke screen has been around Justin Herbert to get people off of Jordan Love as the fallback option if they don't land Burrow or Tua Tagovailoa?
I can see that, if that were, if that is accurate, it definitely appears that way. It appears that way. But there's been, in my opinion, there's been enough credible, if you will, individuals that are close to the Miami Dolphins that have been consistent upon the level of interest of Justin Herbert as well. For the last two, we can even say that there's been an equal distribution in terms
between all three since
2018. Exactly.
Because that was the year Jordan Love had his amazing year that year. Tua just is fresh off winning a national championship, and Herbert just finished his freshman and his junior year and was trending upwards, where his sophomore year ended up being actually his worst. But yeah, you're right. Since 2018, they've been eyeing these three guys.
Absolutely, and I personally think in terms of Justin Herbert and Jordan Love, I personally think the level of interest are like
neck and neck,
dead even. I truly believe on draft day, if Tua is not an option, if somebody just blows the Redskins or the Lions away with a trade, and we don't match that, potential trade, and somebody hops us and selects Tua in that scenario, and we have Justin Herbert and Jordan Love sitting there, I really think it'd be a coin flip. I truly believe that, because if you look at the profiles, now again, I could be totally wrong off base of what I'm saying, but Marvin Allen, we cannot understate his presence in that draft room. I truly believe that.
And who did he draft, EM?
Exactly. Look at the prototypes: Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen.
So, and that's basically what I look at Love as more of a athletic Carson Palmer. People are out here comparing him to Mahomes because of the angles he can throw on. And then we've made the comparisons to Justin Herbert to Josh Allen. People make it some see Ryan Tannehill, others see Josh Allen because of the arm strength. So It's crazy because Marvin Allen is going to he's looking at two unpolished prospects that remind him of two guys he was a part of drafting.
Absolutely.
So you would actually find out which one he covets more if he was put in that position, which is actually an interesting little tidbit to it, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. That's something we need to be paying close attention to as we get closer to draft day.
Mm-hmm.
So, just saying.
And draft day is not too long away.
Right. Like I said, I personally think it'll be between Herbert and Love. It'll be a coin flip.
Yeah. So, there you have it, folks. That's basically what we're hearing right now. Those are the words in Dolphin land. We're still working on our edge evaluation of Van Noy, Shaq Lawson, and Emmanuel Ogbah. We're aiming to have that probably either Friday or Monday, somewhere on one of those 2 days or in between. And if it ends up not coming, we'll fill in with a video on something else for sure. But people got to be on the lookout on that because you're going to drop some gems on that, aren't you?
Absolutely. It'll be just basically articulating how Van Noy, Ogbah, Shaq Lawson, how they translate to this defense as ideal scheme fits. I'll explain what I mean by ideal scheme fits. So you just gotta stay tuned for that.
I can't wait to hear it. And another thing I want to remind people that are watching, we're about to get into draft season. So we have an interview lined up. We're going to be having an interview on basically with a man who just his basic whole thing is breaking down film on quarterbacks. And we're going to go over Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and Jordan Love. And we're going to find out, in his opinion, which one would be the most ideal that we either take at 5, or is Joe Burrow that good that he's worth trading up for? So we'll get into that. Me and EM have got ideas in terms of we're going to do some big boards because our needs changed after free agency, EM. So
absolutely.
I'm actually glad we didn't do the original idea because our whole defensive side of the thing would have been blown up. So
I know, right?
I think we're gonna do some big boards. We're gonna do definitely a quarterback big board. We're gonna do a tackle big board. Running back for sure. And then on the defensive side of the ball, probably gonna do nose tackle, defensive
back as well.
Yeah, and defensive back safety. So probably those 5 positions are what we're gonna focus on. And yeah, that's the content that we got coming up real soon. And then don't forget, after the draft, we're going to get into some player evaluations after we recap that draft. So we got a lot of stuff coming up. We're just about to head into April. And we're going to see some growth. Can
you believe it? Man, April is upon us, bro.
What are we? Are we Brock Marion days away from Tua Tagovailoa?
Brock Marion?
Yeah. Well, I think he was 29, wasn't
he? Was Brock Marion 29? I think he was 32.
I thought he was 29.
Was he 29?
Let me look it up.
I know Minka Fitzpatrick was 29.
No, we can't say that name around here anymore, right?
I know, right?
Imagine if we still had him. If we still had him, EM. Oh my God. If we still had him.
Man. It still hurts. It's gonna take me a while to get over that one, bro.
I don't think a lot of people will get over it.
A while, my friend.
Yeah, no, he was 31. My bad. He was 31.
Yeah.
He was 31. So we are Minka Fitzpatrick days away. Great.
Yeah. Even better, man.
Thanks for rehashing. Thanks for rehashing bad memories, EM.
Yep. Hey, I'm sorry, man. I still feel it, bro. It's gonna take me a while to get over this one.
No, you know what's just crazy? You know what's crazy? Like, especially when you talk about Flores coming from Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick and Nick Saban are like really good friends. And the fact that Nick Saban goes around and talks about how Minka Fitzpatrick is the best player he ever coached, I feel like the Patriots would have made it work, and that was the difference in terms of Gase, because we've gone over this. I believe Gase's regime is what soured him on Miami, and the damage was already done when Flores walked in the door.
I agree. I agree with that, but that in terms of criticism, if you're gonna find any this past year,
that's the one thing.
Flores,
should have made it work.
He should have made it work.
Agreed, 110%. You're 110% right. Anyways, we're gonna get out of here. Want to say, have a great day, Fins Nation. Hope everyone's staying healthy and safe. We'll be back for sure. Look out for our episode 4 coming soon. Anything on the last words, EM?
Y'all stay safe out there. It's getting crazy. It is getting crazy. Just be safe and take heed to what our government is instructing us to do as far as the social distancing thing. Because earlier today, bro, obviously people are not taking, in my opinion, a lot of people are not taking it serious enough, and it's definitely nothing to play with. So quicker we can get this isolated, quicker we can get it resolved, and the sooner we can get back to our lives and also football.
Agreed.
So,
agreed.
Yeah. Fins up, baby.
Fins up. Have a good one, Fins Nation.